We've made a ton of videos on Bird Box, especially when it was released. It is still one of the movies that absolutely fascinate me. And as weird as it seems, I think those are one of the few movies that I find very Lovecraftian. But of course, when I think about a movie that I like, I think about another movie that I like, and then I try to meld them together, like a crossover. People were losing their minds in Bird Box. In an earlier video, we did what the Bird Box monsters represent, or what they exactly are. In that video, we explained exactly what they do, and the horrible fate that befalls anyone who happens to view these things or comes under the influence. So that makes me think, if it could drive people so insane, what would happen if Godzilla was in Bird Box? So to make this easier, I'm going to be picking apart the actual definitions that are listed all over the wonderful internet. The easiest definition that I can give you guys for the creatures in Bird Box is that they are the main antagonists of the novel Bird Box. And the movie, they are malevolent, unseen beings who cause humans who look at them to go insane and suicidal. Now, the first question we have to ask is, why specifically humans? Is it because we're sentient beings? Is it because our intelligence is so advanced to the point where we can actually make out what's going on, but not really totally know how to process it because we're thinking too much about it? The reason why I'm asking this question is because clearly animals in Bird Box, even though they can detect the presence of the unseen malevolent beings, are not affected by these creatures, by these unseen eldritch horrors. We don't see dogs flying into cars and fire, and the birds also are an example of this. Every animal on the face of the planet is totally fine. The only thing or organism that is affected by the Bird Box beings is humans. In The Happening, it was surmised that Mother Nature had toxins in the air that caused people to be suicidal. But in Bird Box, it is actually the people having looked upon these beings that you can't readily see that causes them to kill themselves. Whether it's because the creatures are so freaking fugly, or because the creatures cause whoever looks upon them to hallucinate, or whether or not it's freaking aliens sitting above eating their Cheetos and just making humans go mad without anybody even touching Earth. One thing is clear, the creatures aren't everywhere. There's an actual entity or some kind of invisible mass that is present at any set location. And if your eyes happen to pass that location, well, they turn into the equivalent of a freaking marble countertop, and jumping out the window seems like your ultimate vacation. One thing to note though, crazy people don't seem affected by it, and neither do babies. So that's just a little bit of a backstory or explanation as to what the Bird Box monsters do and what they kind of are, like how it works. Now we go on to Godzilla. Godzilla is a sentient being. He's obviously a lot more intelligent than we give him credit for, especially when we're talking about monsterverse Godzilla, because he's the more relevant one at the time of this video's release. However, especially in the monsterverse, Godzilla is made more animal-like. At his core, he is still an animal. So would he even get affected by the Bird Box monsters? Well, no, he would not. That's the first thing. Let's get that out of the way. But here's the other question now. If Godzilla was in Bird Box, what would the Bird Box monsters even do about that? I mean, there are two possibilities. Actually, there are three. Let's get the alien thing out of the way, because a lot of people were actually thinking that. If it's aliens, then they have some kind of agenda, or this is a social experiment. Godzilla is a big ol' wrench in that. Let's just say Godzilla was suddenly teleported while everyone was losing their minds and these creatures were at large. Bird Box monsters would still affect the humans, but of course Godzilla is possibly just a weird thing. The aliens would have a problem with something Godzilla size just suddenly teleporting into this realm. Honestly, he probably would take their attention off of the humans, and they'd be like, what the frick is that? Everyone stop the social experiment. We gotta head over there right now. This is newsworthy. Of course, the two other possibilities is that these eldritch monsters are there to consciously wreak havoc on mankind just because, or they're there just because they're passing through our dimension and they're just like loo-dee-doo-dee-da. And a side effect of them even being there is people going nuts. Remember, us as the audience can't see these creatures. They're essentially invisible to us. At least that's what we're led to believe watching the movie. If they are there consciously to eradicate mankind, Godzilla probably wouldn't care. He would look at the humans all killing themselves and he would just be like, you know what, maybe now is a high time to go take a very long nap because I don't know what the hell's going on up here, but I'm gonna just wait it out. Like, who needs to be in the middle of a wasp and bee war? Therefore, the monsters would go on with their mission because Godzilla would just be another creature to them. Now, that's if he was like woken up from his nap and already had been there. If he teleported there, they might be like, okay, that was weird. We'll talk about that later. And they'll probably go on their merry way. They wouldn't try to infect Godzilla because what would they get out of that? If they are consciously going there to affect mankind and not every other animal, then it is a problem that they personally have with mankind or some kind of agenda that they're trying to pull. Now, if they're there unconsciously and they don't really care about humans, they're just walking their dog, their invisible three-headed, six-eyed dog, and humans happen to see them through their plane of existence and go crazy, it means nothing to them. For all we know, these creatures are kind of out of touch with our reality. They probably don't even see us. Everything that happens as a result in Bird Box could just be a side effect of us humans seeing the monsters. But then that begs the question, why specifically humans? Well, as I said before, humans are very sentient. Yes, Godzilla can be seen as sentient too, but so are dolphins to some degree, and they're totally fine. Or are they? Maybe somewhere deep in the oceans, dolphins are committing suicide and mashing their melon heads against rocks. The thing is, dolphins and chimpanzees are the closest to us that we can come in terms of sentience. Maybe even octopi as well. But those examples are never shown in the movie, so we don't have that to go off of. We only have the humans in comparison to animals, and we know that no matter how smart or intelligent the animal, they're not affected by it. We would be seeing consequences of other animals having been affected, unless they were just trying to cut the cost of the movie. So as intelligent as Godzilla is, it's very possible that he would not be affected by this at all. Not to mention, Godzilla himself is a very strange being. He's not really Earth-like. I push this theory all the time in many of my Godzilla videos, and to be totally honest, if some of the creatures came from outer space, there is no reason to believe that a freaking kaiju that can breathe radiation out of its mouth and eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner without needing solid food is inherently an Earth-based animal, meaning it originated from here or its ancestors originated from here. For all we know, kaiju or Godzilla's kind can be from a totally different dimension. We're not led to believe that in the monsterverse because he's more animal-like, but because he's more animal-like, that leads me to believe that the Bird Box monsters would not really care whether or not he was there. I don't think it would make a big difference as to what happened in Bird Box, because humans are basically on their own, and when Godzilla shows up, the only reason he does is not like Hanna-Barbera, where he is a savior of mankind. He literally does not care. We are the equivalent to bees in the garden or grasshoppers. If we have a war on our own right off his turf, he does not give a damn. He will go into the ocean where he spends most of his time and where he also makes his home. He wouldn't save us, and the Bird Box monsters wouldn't go after him because he's not human. He is still an animal. We tend to anthropomorphize Godzilla a bit more because we relate to him or because of the nostalgia factor, whatever the case is. But there is nothing in the Godzilla, especially the monsterverse movies, that tells us that he is anything more than just a really intelligent animal. So that's the theory, guys. So what would happen if Godzilla was in Bird Box? Absolutely nothing. Unless, of course, another kaiju showed up as well, and then they started going at it. What do you guys think? Let's hear your theory for this crossover, or what you think would happen. Do you think the Bird Box monsters would have an issue with Godzilla suddenly being there? Would his brain get fried seeing them himself? What would happen? And could he kill them with radiation, or because they're extra-dimensional beings, he wouldn't affect them at all? Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.